The sun was just beginning to rise over the military training camp, casting a warm golden light on the rows of barracks and the vast training grounds. The camp was nestled in a secluded area surrounded by tall pine trees, creating a sense of isolation that intensified the experience for every recruit. This was not just any camp. It was a place where young men and women came to transform their lives, learn discipline, and prepare for the challenges ahead. As recruits arrived, they felt the electric atmosphere buzzing with anticipation and anxiety. The sounds of boots marching in unison echoed throughout the compound as instructors barked commands, demanding immediate compliance. It was clear from the start that this would not be an easy journey. Every inch of the camp radiated authority and structure. The barracks were simple yet functional. Rows of metal beds lined the walls, each assigned to a recruit who would soon learn that personal space was a luxury they could not afford. The air inside was tinged with the scent of polished metal and freshly laundered uniforms, a reminder of the strict standards upheld in this environment. Each morning started with drill sergeants shouting wake-up calls that reverberated through the thin walls, ensuring that no one would dare sleep in past their allotted time. The camp's main training area stretched out before them like a battleground, marked by obstacle courses, firing ranges, and areas designed for tactical simulations. Recruits moved quickly from one station to another under watchful eyes, each task a test not only of physical strength but also mental fortitude. Every recruit understood instinctively that their performance here would determine their future. Success depended on unwavering commitment and respect for those in charge. In this strict setting, there was an unmistakable hierarchy. Ranks mattered deeply. At the top stood experienced officers who had seen battle and faced challenges most recruits could only imagine. Their presence commanded respect, an unwritten rule that everyone adhered to without question. A clear chain of command ensured that orders flowed down efficiently from higher-ups to lower ranks. Among these officers was Lieutenant Sarah Thompson, known for her no-nonsense approach and fierce dedication to her role. She had earned her place through sheer determination and skill, but still faced skepticism from some recruits who believed they knew better. They would soon find out just how wrong they were. As orientation began, recruits gathered in front of Sarah for her first briefing. The tension in the air was palpable. Some exchanged glances filled with doubt about her authority. They whispered among themselves, "You don't belong here," mocking her presence while she stood firm at attention. But Sarah wasn't deterred by their doubts. She had faced tougher adversaries than a few skeptical recruits. With each passing day at camp, she would have opportunities to prove herself, not just as an officer but as someone who could lead them through this rigorous challenge ahead. The recruits would soon realize that respect could come from unexpected places when they learned who truly gave the orders, and what it meant to be part of a team where everyone's strength mattered equally. This introduction set the stage for what lay ahead. Trials that would test their limits both individually and collectively as they navigated through an environment built on discipline, resilience, and ultimately respect for one another, regardless of rank or gender. Lieutenant Sarah Thompson stood confidently at the front of the assembly area, her sharp uniform neatly pressed and her posture tall. The morning sun glinted off her nameplate, and her dark hair was pulled back into a tight bun, giving her an air of authority that many recruits quickly learned to respect. She had always felt a calling to serve. It was in her blood. Her father was a decorated officer, and she had followed in his footsteps, proving herself in a male-dominated field where women were often underestimated. Sarah's strength wasn't just physical. It radiated from her unwavering determination and fierce dedication to her role. She had graduated at the top of her class and completed advanced training that few could match. Sarah excelled in combat tactics and leadership development, which earned her a reputation among her peers as someone who could tackle any challenge head-on. This reputation was born from hard work and resilience. She believed that every recruit deserved leadership that inspired them to give their best. Yet, even with all her accomplishments, Sarah faced skepticism among some recruits who clung to outdated views about women's roles in the military. They whispered among themselves, questioning how someone like her could lead them through rigorous training. Unfazed by their doubts, she knew that she had much to prove, not only to them but also to herself. As a female officer, She understood that every command would be scrutinized more closely than those given by her male counterparts. The moments she spent at dawn preparing for each day served as quiet reminders of why she was there. With each sunrise over the camp, Sarah reflected on the purpose behind her commitment: to empower every recruit under her command regardless of gender. She wasn't just there to lead. She aimed to break barriers and redefine what it meant to be a leader in the military. As orientation began that first day, Sarah spoke with calm authority about the expectations placed upon everyone in the unit. Her voice echoed across the grounds, capturing attention while embodying both warmth and firmness. She made it clear that discipline was essential for survival, both on and off the battlefield, and emphasized the importance of unity within their ranks. Some recruits continued to roll their eyes or mutter dismissively during her speech, but Sarah remained focused on delivering messages about integrity and teamwork. She recounted stories from her own experiences, tales of camaraderie forged in difficult circumstances, and highlighted how trust could make or break missions under pressure. Her presence alone started shifting attitudes. Slowly but surely, even those most resistant began to take notice. They saw not just an officer standing before them but an embodiment of perseverance. A woman who had faced hurdles throughout her career yet stood unyielding against doubt. In this challenging setting where first impressions mattered immensely, Lieutenant Sarah Thompson emerged not merely as an authority figure but as an inspiration. Unsure hands would soon learn to follow firm orders from someone ready to lead with confidence into whatever challenges lay ahead. It would become evident that true leaders rise above opinion, even when others unjustly doubt them, for strength comes from conviction and courage amidst uncertainty. As the first week of training progressed, Lieutenant Sarah Thompson faced a growing wave of rebellion among some recruits. While many began to respect her authority, a small group remained skeptical and openly questioned her leadership. They viewed her as an outsider in a field they believed was meant for men, and their disdain became apparent during drills and briefings. During one particularly grueling obstacle course exercise, Sarah stood at the starting line, ready to motivate the recruits. As she explained the course's challenges, a recruit named Jake, known for his cocky attitude and lack of tact, interrupted her with a loud scoff. "Why should we listen to you? You're just a woman playing soldier," he shouted, drawing laughter from some of his comrades. The tension in the air thickened as other recruits shifted uncomfortably, unsure of how to react. Sarah felt a surge of disappointment at Jake's remark but quickly composed herself. She had heard similar comments before and knew that this was part of the challenge she faced. Rather than respond with anger or frustration, she chose to use this moment to demonstrate her resolve. "Everyone here has a role to play, and I'm here to guide you through this training," she replied calmly but firmly. "If you want to succeed in this camp, you'll need to respect each other, starting with me." Jake rolled his eyes but didn't push the issue further. However, whispers continued among the recruits as they approached the obstacle course. Some exchanged glances filled with skepticism, while others seemed intrigued by Sarah's calm demeanor in the face of disrespect. As they navigated through the course, a series of challenging walls, mud pits, and rope swings, Sarah watched closely. She noticed how several recruits hesitated when they reached difficult spots, clearly unsure if they could push themselves further. It was evident that their lack of respect for her authority translated into doubt about their own abilities. After completing the course, Sarah gathered everyone for a debriefing. "Today was tough," she began, looking each recruit in the eye. "You faced physical challenges that tested your limits. The real test is learning to trust each other, and me, as your leader." Jake piped up again, unable to hide his defiance. "Trust isn't something you earn just because you wear that uniform," he said dismissively. The other recruits murmured in agreement. It was clear that many shared his sentiments. Unfazed by their resistance, Sarah took a deep breath and decided it was time for action rather than words. "All right then," she said with determination. "Tomorrow we'll do this course again, but this time as a team. If one person falls behind or doesn't support their fellow recruits, we'll all start over." The room fell silent as her words sank in. This wasn't just about individual strength anymore. It was about unity and collaboration. Some recruits exchanged glances as they processed what she had said. While doubts lingered in their minds about who should lead them, Sarah had planted a seed of change. They would soon discover that true leadership wasn't defined by gender but by strength of character and the ability to inspire trust, even among those who initially resisted it. With every day that passed at camp, Sarah was determined not only to gain respect but also to instill values that transcended prejudice and built a stronger unit capable of overcoming any challenge together, one obstacle at a time. With each passing day at the training camp, the tension between Lieutenant Sarah Thompson and some recruits steadily grew. While she worked tirelessly to build a cohesive unit, a small faction led by Jake continued to challenge her authority, turning what could have been a collaborative environment into a pressure cooker of defiance. One afternoon, during a class on combat strategies, Sarah laid out her plan for an upcoming field exercise. As she explained how teamwork would be crucial for success, Jake leaned back in his chair, arms crossed and a smirk plastered on his face. "What do you know about real combat?" he sneered, drawing the attention of a few others who shared his skepticism. The whispers began to circulate immediately, grumblings about her capabilities and qualifications, which echoed in the minds of those who were unsure. Sarah felt the sting of their words but chose not to react impulsively. "Knowledge and strategy are as important as brawn on the battlefield," she stated firmly, maintaining eye contact with Jake. "It's not just about what you've done. It's about how well you can inspire your team." She hoped that by redirecting the conversation toward leadership qualities, she could shift their focus from gender biases to the essence of being an effective soldier. However, the defiance didn't stop there. During physical training sessions, when Sarah pushed them harder than they anticipated, Jake was often the first to complain. "Who does she think she is? This is ridiculous," he barked one morning after running drills under her supervision, as he walked over to a couple of other recruits. Sarah overheard this as she led them through stretches, eyes narrowing slightly at his blatant disrespect. Some recruits nodded in agreement with Jake's complaints, letting frustration build amongst them. They started to disregard Sarah's instructions during exercises, talking back or failing to follow her commands accurately. In one instance, when Sarah called out directions for coordination practice, a group began to whisper and laugh among themselves instead of listening. "Maybe we should just leave this one to the guys," one joked loudly, reinforcing their belief that they were better suited for leadership roles. Despite these challenges, Sarah remained steadfast in her mission to foster respect and teamwork. She initiated smaller team-building exercises to encourage camaraderie among the recruits, hoping that taking them out of their comfort zones would meld their differing attitudes together. During these sessions, however, some recruits still resisted her guidance. One evening during an important trust drill, where pairs had to guide each other through an obstacle while blindfolded, Jake boldly refused to partner up with Sarah when she asked. "I'd rather work with someone who actually knows what they're doing," he said dismissively in front of everyone. This blatant act of defiance turned heads and left some recruits amused while others shifted uncomfortably. It was moments like these that shaped the bubbling conflict within the ranks and tested Sarah's patience. With every challenge and dismissive comment, it became increasingly clear that gaining their respect would take more than just commands. It would require profound change in attitude and belief among the recruits. Nevertheless, Sarah held on to her determination to prove herself and create a strong foundation of unity. She knew that overcoming this growing friction would not only define her role as a leader, but also shape the character and future success of each recruit in her command. Through resilience and unwavering focus, Sarah prepared for the battles ahead, both external and internal, and firmly believed that true leadership emerged from adversity. The time had come for a training exercise that would test both the recruits and Lieutenant Sarah Thompson in ways they hadn't faced before. After days of tension and defiance, Sarah decided to organize a challenging obstacle course that required not only physical skill but also cooperation and trust. This was her opportunity to demonstrate leadership and to show the recruits the importance of working together, even in difficult situations. As the recruits gathered at the training field, the sun hung high in the sky, casting long shadows on the ground. Sarah stood before them, explaining the course layout. "This exercise is designed to push your limits," she said, looking around at the group. You'll need to rely on each other's strengths to succeed. If even one of you fails to complete a task, you all will face consequences. Jake smirked at his friends as he listened, his skepticism still simmering beneath the surface. And what makes you think we'll follow your orders? He taunted quietly, convinced that this exercise would only reinforce their doubts about her capabilities. Ignoring Jake's comment for now, Sarah explained that the course consisted of high walls to climb, muddy trenches to crawl through, and balance beams that required steadiness and teamwork. Each recruit would have to partner up for certain sections, sowing further discord among those who resisted her leadership. As they began the exercise, it became evident how divided the recruits were. Some worked seamlessly together while others fell into disarray. In one section of the course, where they had to cross a series of narrow beams stretched across a shallow pit of water, Jake refused to cooperate with his partner, a quieter recruit named Sam who preferred to listen more than speak. "Just go first," Jake said dismissively as he leaned back against a support pole. "If you can't do it alone, then what good are you?"
Sam hesitated.
The other recruits were watching closely. Some snickered under their breath at Jake's refusal to take part effectively, while others could see Sam struggling with doubt. "We need to do this together," Sam replied gently but firmly. It wasn't until Sarah stepped forward that things began to change. "Jake," she said with authority, "this isn't about individual strength. It's about teamwork. Showing someone else you support them takes more courage than handling everything on your own." She maintained steady eye contact with him. This wasn't just an instruction. It was a lesson wrapped in experience. Chris, another recruit who had been intrigued by Sarah's earlier words about unity, spoke up next. "Yeah, Jake, if we don't help each other out here, we'll all end up stuck." With their peers watching and chiming in for encouragement, Jake finally gave in. With reluctance etched across his face, he stepped over so that both he and Sam could hold onto each other as they balanced their way across together. Much to everyone's surprise, including Jake's, both completed the crossing successfully while fighting off laughter from losing their balance just enough not to fall. Cheers erupted from the other recruits as they solidified newfound camaraderie after overcoming shared struggles. By the end of the course, sweats dripped from brows while spirits lifted remarkably higher than when they'd started. Sarah watched proudly as recruits helped guide one another through various challenges, supporting one another instead of resorting back into old habits of mockery or dismissal. At day's end during debriefing, she turned to the group with conviction in her voice. "Consider today a reflection of what happens when we combine our strengths and confront our weaknesses together." It was clear that this test had shifted something essential within them. It wasn't just about completing an obstacle course. It was about cultivating respect for one another as soldiers within a unit ready for any battle ahead, supporting not just their officer but each other throughout every challenge they faced from here on out. As the sun began to set, casting an orange glow over the training camp, Lieutenant Sarah Thompson knew that the next few days would be crucial in shifting the recruits' perspectives. Although the obstacle course had been a success in establishing a sense of camaraderie, there remained lingering doubts about her abilities and authority. To truly prove herself as a leader, she decided to plan a special training exercise that would showcase her expertise and require the recruits to rely on her skills. The next morning, Sarah gathered the recruits and introduced the new training exercise, a tactical simulation that involved navigating through a challenging terrain while strategizing under pressure. "Today, we'll face scenarios where quick thinking and teamwork determine our success in a mission," she announced confidently. "You'll need to depend on both your instincts and my guidance to make it through." Jake rolled his eyes, still unconvinced that Sarah could lead them effectively. "What do you know about tactical situations?" he muttered as the others assembled around her. But Sarah dismissed his remark, remaining focused on setting up the simulation. The recruits donned their gear and followed Sarah into the woods where they divided into squads for safety and strategy. The simulation began with a loud horn blast signaling the start of their mission. Retrieve a hypothetical package hidden deep within enemy territory while overcoming various obstacles along the way. As they navigated through dense underbrush, they faced challenges like treacherous slopes, narrow ravines, and unexpected muddy patches. In one section of the terrain, Jake's squad encountered a simulated enemy ambush. Panic spread through their ranks as uncertainty took hold. "What do we do now?" one recruit shouted, glancing at Jake for direction. Suddenly, Sarah stepped forward, having watched from a distance. "Listen up," she commanded, her voice cutting through the chaos. "Take cover behind the trees. We need to regroup and devise a plan before moving forward." Her confidence radiated authority, something the recruits had never fully recognized before. Observing her calm demeanor amid the rising anxiety helped shift their focus away from fear and uncertainty. With her guidance, they formed a defensive perimeter while discussing strategies for safely retrieving the package. As Sarah pointed out positions for cover and flanking moves, she shared insights from her training experiences that proved invaluable in this simulated warfare. "Now," Sarah instructed sharply once their plan was solidified. The squad moved into action with newfound determination, relying on her instructions to execute their strategy seamlessly. As they successfully maneuvered past the ambush and retrieved the hypothetical package, cheers erupted among Jake's squad. They turned towards Sarah with expressions of admiration and respect that had been absent just days before. "You handled that perfectly," Sam exclaimed, shaking his head in disbelief at how well they worked together under her leadership. Even Jake's smirk faded as he processed what had just occurred. It was clear. Sarah had proven herself not only as qualified, but as an essential leader who understood how to navigate challenges strategically. He felt a shift within himself. It was hard to deny her skill after witnessing how she guided them through chaos with ease. By the end of the day, exhausted yet exhilarated, the recruits debriefed around a fire under the stars. Laughter filled the air as they shared stories about their experience. For many, it was a turning point. No longer did they see Sarah as just another officer, but as a talented leader capable of navigating complex situations. Through this exercise, she had successfully dismantled prejudices that lingered among them, proving that awareness, strategy, and respect were vital components that made a true leader. It became clear that Sarah Thompson had firmly established her place among them, not just as an officer but as someone they could trust in uncertain times. The atmosphere around the training camp had shifted dramatically over the past few days. Lieutenant Sarah Thompson had proven herself to the recruits during the tactical simulation, but as they grew closer to respecting her leadership, she realized they still needed to understand the depth of her capabilities. It was time for the recruits to learn the reasons that had led to her appointment as their officer, and how her achievements formed the foundation of her authority. One afternoon, Sarah gathered everyone around a campfire after a rigorous training session. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and purple. The recruits settled on logs and benches, their faces flushed from the day's hard work, and curiosity began to spark in their eyes. "Today," Sarah called out, "I want to share a bit of my story with you, so you can understand what brought me here." The recruits exchanged glances. This was unexpected, and they leaned in closer. She cleared her throat. "Before I joined this camp as a lieutenant, I earned my stripes as an Army Ranger. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I faced immense challenges both physically and mentally. Some recruits shifted in their seats, surprised by her transparency. They'd only known her as their commanding officer and hadn't considered her path or the trials she had overcome. I graduated at the top of my class in combat training," she continued, recalling moments that shaped her resilience. "I've navigated difficult missions where teamwork was essential to survival. Sometimes it meant putting my life on the line for my fellow soldiers." This disclosure seemed to resonate with them, humanizing her as more than just an officer standing behind a desk. Sarah shared vivid stories of her experiences in various deployments, narrow escapes from dangerous situations, and how she had learned to read people and situations quickly. "Every mission taught me the importance of not just strategy but emotional intelligence as well," she stated firmly. "Understanding your team's strengths and weaknesses is vital when lives are at stake." As she spoke, she noticed Jake sitting still, no longer rolling his eyes or making snide comments. Instead, he listened intently, perhaps beginning to grasp the vast experience Sarah brought with her. "I was chosen to lead this unit not simply because of my gender, but because of my proven skills and previous achievements," Sarah emphasized, letting her words settle into the group. I stand before you not just as an officer but as someone who has faced real battles, both on and off the field. I am here to guide you all through your journey, just as I have been guided. The crackling fire punctuated her statements as she let the weight of her experiences hang in the air. There was silence amongst the recruits. Their earlier skepticism began to fade into newfound respect. For many, this moment marked a turning point in their perceptions. They could now see how Sarah's background added invaluable depth to her character and authority. She was not just a woman in a uniform. She was a seasoned leader with lessons earned through hardship. After sharing her story, Sarah encouraged them to ask questions about her experiences, and one by one, recruits began to open up about their own backgrounds and aspirations. The conversation flowed freely as they recognized that everyone had unique stories to tell. As they sat around the fire sharing laughs and lessons learned, Sarah realized she had successfully bridged a gap of misunderstanding that had once separated her from the recruits. No longer were they just defiant trainees. They were a unit forging mutual respect grounded in shared experiences. Through this moment of vulnerability and openness, Lieutenant Sarah Thompson fortified not only her authority but also became a mentor who inspired trust in challenging times. A leader ready to help guide each recruit toward becoming stronger soldiers both individually and collectively. With the trust and respect beginning to build within the ranks, Lieutenant Sarah Thompson decided it was time to further solidify this newfound bond among the recruits. She knew that the journey to becoming a cohesive unit required more than just shared experiences. It needed deliberate actions that would demonstrate the value of teamwork and following orders. The next day, Sarah prepared for a team-building exercise designed to challenge their communication and collaboration skills. As she gathered everyone at the training field, she explained, "Today, we're going to work together to accomplish a mission. Success depends on each of you playing your part and following my lead." Jake, who had slowly begun to show signs of respect towards Sarah, still carried an edge of skepticism. He stood with crossed arms, still wary of her methods but unwilling to voice his doubts after the campfire revelations. The other recruits were more engaged now, their eyes reflecting a mix of excitement and determination. The exercise involved navigating through a mock enemy territory while completing various tasks that required cooperation. Each recruit was assigned a specific role. Some would scout ahead, others would provide support from behind, while another group handled equipment and logistics. Sarah emphasized that they must trust one another completely and follow her orders precisely if they wanted to succeed. As they set off into the designated area, Sarah observed the initial hesitation among them. Old habits die hard, and for a moment, it seemed as if they might revert back to their earlier attitudes of skepticism. However, as they encountered the first obstacle, a series of thick bushes resembling fortified cover, they quickly remembered her instructions. "Scout team, go ahead and assess the best route," Sarah called out, her voice steady and commanding. The recruits leaped into action. For the first time, they began working together with purpose rather than competing against one another. As they progressed through the course, challenges arose that tested their ability to follow orders under pressure. At one point, Jake's squad encountered a simulated enemy ambush where communication was key. With adrenaline pumping through their veins, he turned to Sarah for guidance. Rather than panicking or hesitating like before, Jake shouted out the command she had taught them, "Form a defensive line." It was at this pivotal moment that Sarah witnessed a remarkable transformation within the group. They executed her orders seamlessly, taking cover and coordinating their movements effectively. The recruits followed her lead without question, demonstrating trust in her expertise that hadn't existed just days before. When they successfully navigated past the ambush and regrouped afterward, cheers erupted from every corner of the team. Their excitement was palpable as they shared high fives and accolades for executing their roles so well together. In those moments of triumph, Sarah felt a sense of pride wash over her. She had become not only an officer but also a guiding force in their development. During the debriefing session afterward, Sarah emphasized what they had accomplished together. "You've shown that when you follow directions and trust each other's strengths, you can overcome any challenge." Jake stepped forward with sincerity in his voice. "I didn't think we could do it at first. he admitted openly to the group. But Sarah led us through it like a seasoned pro. I get it now. His words echoed around the campfire later that evening as others chimed in with similar sentiments. Through this exercise, Sarah built respect not just as an authority figure but as someone whose leadership was essential for their success. They had learned firsthand how teamwork is crucial for survival in challenging circumstances. A lesson that would stick with them long after training concluded. As they shared stories late into the night, surrounded by laughter and camaraderie under the stars, it was clear that Lieutenant Sarah Thompson had forged something special within her unit. An environment where cooperation thrived and respect flourished amidst shared challenges. No longer just individuals but soldiers united. They were ready to face whatever lay ahead together as one cohesive team. After weeks of training, the time had come for the ultimate challenge. A final test that would require every recruit to depend on Lieutenant Sarah Thompson's guidance to complete their mission. The stakes were high, and Sarah wanted to ensure that all her hard work in building trust and unity would culminate in this moment. As dawn broke over the camp, the recruits gathered, their faces reflecting a mix of determination and anxiety. Sarah stood before them, her presence commanding as she addressed the team. Today, we will face a mission that will test everything you have learned. Communication, strategy, and most importantly, teamwork. You will need to rely on each other and trust me to guide you through what lies ahead. She laid out the details of the mission. They would navigate through a series of obstacles set up in the woods while retrieving a flagged package, simulating a critical operation in enemy territory. Several stations along the way would pose challenges that required them to work together to solve problems while staying in constant communication. Remember, she added, locking eyes with Jake and the other recruits, the success of this mission depends on how well you follow orders. I'll be directing you every step of the way. The recruits nodded, their expressions serious as they prepared mentally for what lay ahead. With everyone suited up and ready, they ventured into the woods under the cover of trees that loomed overhead like silent sentinels. The first challenge involved crossing a narrow rope bridge suspended above a muddy pit. The recruits needed a clear plan to help each other cross without falling. Sarah instructed them to form a human chain for balance. She watched as they executed the task successfully under her direction. Shouts of encouragement filled the air as they crossed one by one. Then came the next obstacle, a simulated enemy lookout point where they had to assess how to move past without detection. Sarah encouraged them to use stealth and hand signals for communication. As they crouched and moved cautiously, she reminded them to stay focused on each other's positions. Her calm demeanor instilled confidence, allowing them to navigate undetected. Things intensified when they reached a point where they found themselves cornered by additional simulated enemies. Panic set in briefly as some recruits glanced nervously at each other. Sensing their hesitation, Sarah stepped forward with authority. "Listen carefully," she commanded. "We'll create a distraction. One group will cause noise on my signal while the rest flank from behind." They executed the plan effectively. Following her lead brought them safely past the obstacle. Cheers erupted as they regrouped and assessed their progress with renewed energy. Finally, they approached the designated area where the flagged package was hidden, but found it protected by further challenges designed to test their problem-solving skills and cooperation. This time, they had to unlock a series of timed puzzles that required every recruit's input for success. Sarah guided them through each step as tension mounted. She inspired confidence in their ability to think critically as a team. "Look at each clue together," she urged. "Remember what we've practiced about leveraging each person's strengths." With fervent teamwork, their voices rising above the vegetation, they cracked the puzzles one by one just in time to secure the package before their time ran out. As they completed the final task and secured victory together, exhaustion was written across their faces, but it was mingled with elation. Sarah beamed with pride at what they had accomplished collectively. It was more than just retrieving a package. It demonstrated how far they'd come as a unit. When they returned triumphantly to camp, cheers resonated through the air like music among them. She gathered them around for debriefing and praised everyone for their hard work and cooperation throughout the mission. No longer individuals on separate paths, but members of a cohesive team working toward a common goal. By trusting her leadership and understanding that success relied on collaboration, Lieutenant Sarah Thompson had helped transform her recruits into confident soldiers ready for any challenges awaiting them in real combat. An unforgettable final test that would define their training experience together forever. As the final challenge concluded and the recruits basked in their victory, it became clear that this training experience had profoundly transformed their understanding of leadership, teamwork, and the crucial importance of respecting authority. The journey they had taken under Lieutenant Sarah Thompson's guidance was not just about physical challenges. It was a comprehensive lesson about collaboration in the face of adversity. Gathered around the campfire one last time, the atmosphere buzzed with excitement and pride. Laughter filled the air as stories were exchanged, each recruit reflecting on their personal growth throughout the training. They now saw Sarah not merely as an officer, but as a capable leader who had guided them through obstacles and helped them discover their own potential. Looking back, Jake began, addressing his fellow recruits, I realize how much I underestimated her at first. I can see now how leadership isn't just about giving orders. It's about inspiring your team and knowing when to step back. He paused, glancing at Sarah, who nodded appreciatively at his recognition of her role. This acknowledgement resonated with everyone around the fire. Each recruit shared moments where they had witnessed Sarah's unwavering dedication, not only to ensuring they succeeded, but also in teaching them to trust each other. It was evident that respect for authority had shifted from mere compliance to genuine admiration for someone who led with integrity and expertise. The lessons learned during training extended beyond physical tasks. They were lessons in humility, trust, and understanding. Recruits spoke about how they had come to rely on one another's strengths rather than compete against each other, a significant shift from their earlier attitudes of skepticism toward collaboration. They began to realize that true strength lay in unity. Every time we faced an obstacle together, Sam added, it reminded me that we're stronger as a unit than we are individually. That's what makes us soldiers. His words echoed sentiments shared by others as they echoed themes of camaraderie that had developed over weeks of rigorous training. In this setting under the stars, Sarah took a moment to reflect on her journey alongside them, not just as a leader but as part of a team that was beginning to understand its potential. She felt proud seeing them evolve into confident soldiers who recognized the power of collective effort over individual ego. As you move forward, she said thoughtfully, looking at each recruit, remember that challenges will always arise, both in training and in real-life scenarios. When you respect authority and work together, there is no limit to what you can achieve. Her voice carried wisdom grounded in experience, encouraging them to take these lessons beyond the camp. The recruits nodded in agreement. There was a newfound sense of responsibility among them. They understood that following orders did not mean sacrificing their individuality or creativity. It meant contributing effectively to a larger goal while respecting those who guide them along the way. As laughter gradually waned into comfortable conversation beneath the starlit sky, it became apparent that this training session had laid a strong foundation for future missions ahead. The transformation they experienced would echo throughout their military careers, a realization that teamwork is vital and respecting authority is an essential component for success within any unit. With renewed determination pulsing through them, these recruits, once skeptical individuals, now stood united as soldiers ready to carry forth their shared experiences into whatever challenges awaited beyond the confines of camp life. They were not just prepared for battle. They were equipped with the knowledge that leadership thrives on trust, and togetherness fosters resilience against any storm they might face ahead.